Welcome, everybody, to the Compassion Support Call. I'm Jelaila Starr, and I have with me tonight Bob Wright of the infamous Access Your Value videos, which have been one of the most singular, masterful ways of educating people on the Treasury Direct account. So thank you, Bob. And we also have Judy, Jandora, and she just has the most amazing videos and the most amazing energy. And I'm glad you're here tonight. Judy, and BZ Rieger has been BZ, is that the way you pronounce your last name?
Rieger.
Rieger, okay.
Yep.
I apologize for that.
That's okay.
And she has been the most loyal friend and compatriot of Heather and Tootsie Giraffe on this long journey to help us move out of the matrix with compassion. And so thank you for being here. So we decided to do this call because we felt that after Heather was arrested, it seemed to send a shockwave through the community. And I think a lot of people were getting frustrated because it had been a week or two since she was arrested and there was very little information that most people could hang their hat on. I mean, there was information coming out, but, it wasn't what we were all looking for. So it seemed like there's a lot of frustration and people were losing hope. So I got the message from upstairs to do this call. I see
Muted.
People on the call with me to inspire hope and let us get back on track and redouble our efforts and get our focus back, and to kind of take a look at where we are and where we need to go next, because we know more and more people are figuring out this is more than about the money. This is about something far greater than you or me. This is about ascension. This is about not only ascension, because a lot of planets ascend. Heck, a lot of planets end up freeing themselves from the frequency fence of a slave colony. But this is about a grand experiment. This is about the few times in a universal game, and here we go, going galactic, so just, hang in there with me. This is one of the few times in a universal game when we are able to attempt completing the game. This is the third attempt. It's called the third grand experiment. And we are right at that moment, right on the doorstep. And we've just got to figure it out. So today, when I was talking to my co-host today on our prep call, we were just trying to figure about different ways, different analogies that we could use that people could relate to, that would help you understand where we are in this whole process. Because the TDAs and the release of the GCR and all this is tied to something greater, and most people are just starting to figure that out because there have been delays and delays and delays and delays, and it's this and it's that and it's this and it's that. Well, in the grand experiment, guys, there's rules that govern when the game ends. And so that is my job, is to explain how the game works, and that's what I was trained to do starting 20 years ago, and that's why I'm back here now. Sharing with you again when I thought I was going to actually be able to retire, but they didn't let me. So here's where we are, and here's an analogy to explain it. Many of you who have studied some degree of Egyptian history and the spiritual, the Gnostics and the mystery schools, have heard about the Temple of Horus. I think it's the Temple of Horus, and it's the Temple of Kamumbo, which is the Temple of the Alligators. And when an initiate who goes through the mystery schools, when they reach like the level of what we would consider a 33rd degree Mason, they go through their ultimate initiation. This is the final one, where they're then initiated into the deepest mysteries or abilities. And to achieve that or to complete that, they must jump into this pool of alligators and find their way to the door before they either A, run out of breath, or B, get eaten. Now, if they open their eyes, they will get scared, and they will look for the light that they can see with their eyes. Well, there will be a light, but it will not be the door. The goal is to keep your eyes shut and follow your inner guidance to find the door. Now, how do you do that? You must align with the frequency of the light coming out of that door that you can only see through your third eye. If you haven't achieved that level of enlightenment or awareness or consciousness, you will not see the door and you will die. So many beings, many initiates never made it. It took them several lifetimes of coming back over and over to finally complete that initiation. That is very symbolic of what we're doing now. We've gone through two grand experiments and several other destroyed worlds, and we have finally, this is like our 7th initiation, if you will. And it usually took about, 7 to get through it. So we've got to see the light at the end, at the doorway. And the only way we're going to see it is to align with it. So how do we align with it? We have to integrate our way up to that level of consciousness, because the integration point is the neutral zone. It basically neutralizes all polarity. It creates like an opening, like a portal that you can step through. And that's what we're doing. So Heather, in her way, opened a crack in the matrix, if you will. We're like in a matrix. And she opened a crack with this TDA and the OPPT trust efforts that she did, years ago. And now what we're able to do is like take a screwdriver and ram it into that crack and open that crack a little bit more. But what we want to do is turn this crack, okay, and I'm going to give you another analogy. It's like when you pioneer, like Daniel Boone, he was going west, and he had to make a pathway out west. And now we have superhighways that travel between here and the west coast. So we've got to create a superhighway out of this little trail that Heather has created for us. And what that is going to take is the ability to integrate. And we have been given, thanks to the dark, numerous opportunities to integrate right now because of all the chaos and confusion. We're playing out everything that's ever happened. It's like there's nothing new in the galaxy. Nothing's new, and it's all playing out right now to give us opportunities to be able to integrate. And so we have plenty of fuel to do this, and that's where we are today. So this call is about helping you understand how to integrate, because we have to align with the frequency that allows us to complete the game for these TDAs and this RV to complete. And there's still so much polarity. There's still so much fighting and people hating the dark and, hating the devil and hating the cabal, that as long as we're still doing that, we're still stuck in polarity, and we're not up at the level that we need to get to. So this is a call for those who understand that and are ready to go down that path and turn this into a superhighway. That's what we're looking for. So if you're on here and all you're looking for is, when is the RV going to happen, or has Heather given us unfettered access, then this call isn't for you. I'm looking for the people who are ready to help take that crack and pull it all the way open so that we can all walk out of this matrix and end this game. And then we're going to go into the restoration period where all this money is going to be available because the RV will be released and the TDAs will be released. It's not all up to Heather. Heather, we're not going to put all this on her shoulders. We've got to help her. And the only reason that I am here with you tonight is because I learned about Heather because someone contacted me about Heather. And when I looked at what she was doing, I realized she was playing by the rules of the game, of the integration game, and she was doing it the right way, and she was having success. And I needed to step in and support that because we're at the very end, so the timing is perfect. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to BZ to give you guys hang on a second, I lost.
Unmuted.
Hi. Thanks
An
for having me.
update on what Heather's doing.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This session is no longer being recorded.
Right this moment.
Hang on.
The recording has started.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. So right this moment, Heather is sitting in the courthouse holding place and hopefully just taking a little snooze. There's a whole administrative procedure and process that goes through various details from the logistics process from their point, paperwork and so on and so forth that has to go through. So she will be released on her own recognizance. She has released her passport, driver's license, all that kind of thing. She will be staying at a quiet, comfortable place in Tennessee in the proper jurisdiction for this court, and will be able to do what she needs to do on the legal end to facilitate the next step, which is her jurisdiction hearing. So what the court's mandate is that she will be there until the trial occurs, and that's further down the road. I'm not even going to get into those dates yet. I will publish them on the IV, but they're really not relevant at this moment in time. She's doing well, she's tired, and she's ready to go to the next step. So that's the specific linear update on Heather. And Randy is back in his pod. He has not been released. He did fire his public defender. He can represent himself, and we're in the works to get what he needs to have some bogus warrants and whatnot on him taken care of, and then we'll find a place for him, and he will do the same as Heather is doing, not in the same location, but for the same thing I just described.
Excellent. And they still need our support, guys. They still need funding to finish this up. So if anybody has the ability to give, then let's do it. Okay, Bob?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Do you? Yeah.
As far as the TDAs are concerned, first I really would like for people to understand, as far as if it was only just about having unfettered access to your TDA accounts, a lot of us could have been there already. We've already been offered that, provided that we keep our mouths shut and we don't talk about any of the other things. If I wanted to have complete unfettered access to my TDA accounts, all I would have had to do was to keep my mouth shut and to block. The same offer was given to Heather. So I know firsthand that the TDA accounts are real and that they're accessible and they're in your names and they are completely 100% legal. They've told us directly. So, but nobody has taken that deal. Not a single person that's been offered in our group has taken that deal. Maybe others have received similar offers and have taken those deals. But like Jelaila said earlier, this is not just about the TDA accounts. Okay? I did release a declaration of facts that's posted on my Facebook to give people a tool to use to reverse the reversals. But beyond that, what is happening right now is these filings that we've been putting in for Heather and for Randy are filings that once entered into the court system, open up this huge, gigantic can of worms. I don't even want to use the word worms because it's a really good thing, what is actually going on. You're talking about the foreclosure and the official disclosure of everything. Now, mind you, the plan was to do this over the next 50 years. I don't know if anybody watches Corey Good, but they did talk about what their plan was. Our plan is completely different. Our plan is to have disclosure, full disclosure, right now, not over the next 50 years. And in order to do that, we need to raise awareness. And we've done that. People are aware that these accounts exist. So at this point right now, it's just a matter of us coming together, getting ourselves and all of us, because I'll tell you what, in every case, they are going to test to make sure that you know who you are. And it's like Jelaila said, it is part of the game. It's part and parcel of the game. You know, a lot of people who have been following this for a really long time are familiar with the OPPT filings and what they actually represent. You're talking about the closure of all government agencies. You're talking about the reintegration, repurposing of every institution you know. You're talking about the education system, healthcare system, all the governing agencies. You're talking about the release of technologies, all of that, the integration of our true history, because everything that we've been taught and everything that we have been indoctrinated from our childhood on and for generations is 98% lies. There's no foundational truth in any of it, because all of these things were part of, that was all part of the game. And you really have to step back to get a real proper perspective. And, you know, this isn't something that happened in 2017. The powers that be have been setting this up for thousands of years. And we, you know, a lot of us who even
muted
call have been working on this 20 years plus, some even longer, you know, on just the TDA accounts. So, you know, I appreciate there's a lot of people who just found out about this year, and they're like, well, when's it going to happen? Well, it's happening now. This is the end of the end game, just like Jelaila said, but it is more than just the financial aspect of it. That's the part that people became aware of, you know, that opened up the door to all this, you know, the OPPT filings, the foreclosure of the government and all of the banking systems. All of that they're all tied together. So, go ahead.
No, I'd like to interject some because you inspired a thought that I want to be able to expound on what you just said, if I could.
Please.
From the bigger perspective, there would have to be one thing that would occur on the grand experiment that would get people's attention, that could be utilized to kind of wake them up. And the dark had to create that opportunity. So what it is on this earth is financial. The dark has, in playing their role, and this is okay, I'm helping you guys with integrating because I'm helping you see this from the higher perspective, okay? The dark has to set up the experiment. They have to set up all the systems and everything in order to, at the end of the game, get us to a certain place. So what they've done is they've created a system that would slowly but surely enslave us, but make us think that we were free. And so here we are now figuring out that we haven't been free for a long time in what they did. So we're now at a point where many people cannot afford to function in the way they did even 10 years ago. And that was all by design, because if you aren't in pain, you won't see a reason to change, right? Because pain is the catalyst for change. It's when you hit the wall, that's when you end up realizing that you got to step back and figure out, well, I must go another way. When things are flowing, we know that things are where they're supposed to be, and there's no need to change because we're in the flow. So it's only when we hit the wall that we go, ouch, we need to step back and go in a new direction. So the job of the dark or the cabal in this game was to get us to a point where we are almost destitute. Only then would we be willing to listen when a Heather Ann Tucci comes along. Otherwise, if we're all doing well, why do we care what she's doing? If we're all able to, pay our bills and take vacations, why would we care if she's running around the world, talking to the Rothschilds and doing this and that, using her own money to help free us if we're all living the good life? Does that make sense to you? We had to be in a place where we were so far down that we would pay attention. And so this is perfect. This is exactly the way the game is played. So we are at that moment. So where I want you to go with this is to realize that you can focus on just the money and you will not succeed. But if you focus on realizing that you're the creator God who wanted to play in this game, who agreed to get stuck and then figure your way out, and then when you find a Heather Ann Tucci you go with it's all about the money for a while, then you realize, wait a minute, we're focused on it's all about the money, but we're not getting where we want to go. So maybe there's something more going on here. And now you're on this call, and now you're getting your confirmation that, yep, that's exactly right. There is more than what's going on. That's exactly what Bob is saying. We are at that point, guys, where we have got to do the thing that we need to do to get out to end the game. Because if everybody integrates the cabal, if everybody, like the trolls that are on here tonight, I guarantee you we got trolls on here tonight. Thank you, trolls, for being here, because what you're resisting is us, and everything you resist, you give energy to. So you're helping us to persist. So thank you very much for being here, because I know every one of you are getting paid to do what you do. You're trying to feed your families. You're just like us. You're just playing on the other side. And I think that deep down you're ready for this to end. And I know a lot of the cabal is ready for this to end. They're all trying to feed their families. They're all trying to survive. We're all in this game as souls just trying to survive, but as long as we're still playing on sides, instead of realizing that we are all connected and we're playing a game for our own collective evolution. But do you see where I'm going with this? So I'll shut up now. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, you're exactly right. Most of the cabal they want this to end just as badly as we do. And
They're
a lot of them asking the same question. When the hell are they going to get it? What is it going to take? I mean, we've put buffoons in front of them. We've lied right out into their face. We've put to wake them up. Literally, that is their job. And if you can't get past that, because lately I've been seeing a lot of name calling, inner fighting, and these people belong to this group, and they're compromised, and blah, 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 amongst ourselves. That is ridiculous. Think about what you're doing. I want to give you a little bit more of the history, and maybe Jelaila can get into it a little bit. But it had to come from the inside. It had to come from the inside. There is no other way that we were going to end this game if it didn't come from the inside, because it's the inside people that are given all of the information, all of the knowledge, how the system and the matrix is set up. I remember, and just I'm going to put myself out. I remember going to Midnight Dragon School, which is where most of this knowledge comes from, on how the matrix works. I couldn't share this with you if I didn't have that training. And I wouldn't have got that training if I had not been part of the royal reptilian line. Do you understand what we're saying here? And we're all here. Most of these people, a lot of the people that actually helped us and helped Heather and the other trustees file those paperwork came from the inside. People who know that the time is right and they want to end the game. It's time to end the game. So they are not working against us. Ultimately, everybody is working for the same goal, to come together, to end all of the polarity, stop all of the backbiting, name-calling, and us and them thing, and actually build a society that's beyond polarity. Because when you're talking, everybody says, "Oh, we're going to get 5D," and they think that that's going to happen on its own. Somebody's going to flick a light switch, and then everything's just going to be peaches and roses. That's not how it happens. That's not the way it's not just instantly peaches and roses. It's not like that. We have to do the work. We've got to do the integration. So there's a lot of processing, especially, and a lot of you who are on this call are still in that process of processing a lot of new information. And that's fine, right? But there are those of you who've been in this game for quite a long time and understand exactly where I'm coming from. And once we get enough of, these awakened souls, these old souls, the ones that have been around the block, and you know who you are. Right now you're feeling tired. You're feeling tired because you're feeling just like the cabal. It's been thousands of years. When is this going to be fucking over already? Literally, this is how a lot of old souls are feeling right now. And I'll tell you, it's going to happen within the next year or so. It has to. It's actually overdue to happen because, the earth is also working with us. And I can go for hours and, talking about a lot of the history, but you've got to get past this us and them and light and dark and reptilians and humans and all of this, division, because it's all the game would not be possible without every single player, and it's so important. It's a simple concept, but people just have a really hard time integrating it.
Right, and many people here, they say 50% of all the star seeds are in America because America is the melting pot, but it's it's like the microcosm of the macrocosm, and the macrocosm is a galaxy. The galaxy is a melting pot of species. Earth is actually a melting pot of species too, because we have 144,000 different species in our DNA. That's why they claim the right to tinker with us in the times past, and why they disconnected 10 of our strands of DNAs to stop. Well, that's another story, and if we get down that road, I'll do a call on the whole galactic history and why the Nibiruans disconnected 10 strands, and why they've now given us the ability to recompile those strands, which is a formula of compassion, which I'll do a call on that as well. But the thing I want people to realize is that we've all been in this. We've all been at this party where everybody had to walk around with a mask on that was human. But the reality is that many people on this planet are not human. It's like, the movie, what was that movie? Oh, God, what was his name? Will Smith in it?
I Am Legend or no?
No, the one about it just escaped my mind. It showed like Men in Black. Men in Black.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Really real. Yes, it really is that way. I have, over the 20 years I've been doing this work,
unmuted,
people from all over the galaxy, and they knew they were not human. and and some of them were really struggling to, put on the human mask and try to be a human. And when they were allowed to finally say, I'm this or I'm that, and I'm going, yep, I agree. It was like finally being able, someone actually validating you for who you really are. Well, we are at that point, guys, where we have to stop thinking that everybody is human and start thinking just like we have different colors of skin, we have different species. Because if we're going to enter the galaxy, if we're going to go back into the galactic community and we're going to step up, we're going to meet species from all over the universe that are not human. And if we can't handle the fact now, how are we going to be able to handle it when we actually see it?
I think that's what we've been going. Yeah, I think that's what we've been going through with so many different quote-unquote races on this planet and so many different species of animals and all of that kind of thing. It is, like you say, a microcosm of the macrocosm. And we've played all of that out. Now we've lived it at a level. And now we're going to start seeing each other as galactic others, selves, all at the same time. Everything on both sides of the fence, everything becomes everything. It is and it's not all at the same time. What do you choose? You get to decide. And as you take it through the center core, that center of it all, that's where you move through and into the higher frequencies when you can balance, right?
Well, we have got to get these calls from this point on. If they're going to be calls that I'm going to be connected to, my job is to prepare you to get out of the matrix, to show you the way out. So you've got to know how this game is played, and I'm going to share with you how the game is played, because that's what I was trained for 20 years on, is how the game was played, because I was trained as a galactic historian by ancient time travelers who've been in this game from the very beginning, and they are the ancient elders of the Nibiruans. And the Nibiruans were the ones who created humanity. I don't care how you spin it. You go back and you read your research, it's there plain as day all over the world. They were the ones who created Adam. So we're going to get past the religion. We're going to get past all the programs of the matrix. If you dare to go with me, if you're that brave, you'll find your way out of this matrix. But you're going to have to leave a lot of those programs behind. And when you discover all the things that you were taught, you can have your moment of anger, but then you got to realize, hey, they were all part of the schoolhouse. They were all part of how this game was set up and how masterful it was, because you, as a professional in soul evolution, because you wouldn't even be down here right now if you weren't a professional, got stuck in it. So that's how masterful it was. So it's to be thankful to them, because remember, they're your brothers and sisters too. You have been with them in other galaxies and other places as your mothers, your fathers, your brothers, your sisters, your lovers, your friends, your children. They are who is behind the cabal. They are playing cabal roles now. So think about that. So I'm going to educate you on how to integrate and how to get out of the game. And I've chosen these individuals to partner with me if they choose to help you get out of the game, to end it. And that's what we're here for. So I'm going to concede and let someone else talk now. I've taken up plenty of the time.
I just want to add one quick thing for the part you were just talking about with the galactic. Why do people think that Star Trek, all of its various incarnations, was so wildly popular? Because you recognize it, because you understand that that's where you are. You're exploring, you're experiencing, and you don't harm others when you come into contact with them, even if they're holding a phaser at your head. So there's a reason why there's that recognition. Yes, it's great fun, and you want to split your fingers in a Vulcan hand signal and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but there's a reason why that is. And so think about that.
Remember.
That's right. And again, that's another one of those dot connectors. When you're looking around at things unfolding, take a pause, take a deep breath, come from your heart, and say, okay, what else is this showing me aside from just the linear aspect, whether it's a newspaper headline or this call that you're listening to or anything else, where can you fit those pieces together and come from the brain in your heart rather than solely the brain in your head?
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
So we're taking this call to a new level, and you can either jump on board with us, and we're going to keep moving forward. We're going to keep supporting what Heather's done, because we can't go back to where we were and expect this to all be successful, because we're not playing by the rules of the game. The rules of the game require that we integrate and reach a frequency that allows us, just like the initiates in the Temple of Kamambo, to see the door through their inner eye, because they align with the frequency of the information or light coming out of that door. That's how they recognized it. So we're going to get to that frequency.
Right, and that's all about feeling your way, feeling. It's literally about the vibrations you feel in your body. And what do you do with them? Because a lot of times, sometimes you're gonna have instances where fear, like an old paradigm of fear, comes up, and all of a sudden you've got the same feeling in your body that excitement has. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to make it excitement? Are you going to level it up? Are you going to harmonize? Or are you going to let it be the old story all over again? When it's the old story, it hurts really bad. When you feel that upliftment, that sense of, I can take this, I can do something with this, then you start taking control. You start getting in the navigator's seat. You start leveling and harmonizing into excitement and upliftment, and watch what happens in your world. There's some crazy stuff that is now happening, and it's all who we truly are. This is a new level. Here we are. We're here together. We're going to do this.
Right. I mean, perfect example of integrating is you see all these people. I don't know if it's happening around the world, but here they're tearing down Confederate monuments because they're angry over this whole slavery issue. So what is the value in that? What is the value of that whole drama playing out? People are finally recognizing that they're slaves. Now they're taking it out on these monuments. Okay, well, that may not be the best thing in the world, but at least they're recognizing the lie. But here's the other thing I want people to realize. When you act out of anger and you tear down the old instead of just integrating and go, okay, that is a lie. We don't have to tear down the monument. We just have to recognize that it was a lie.
Which goes to what you resist persists. And it's not just a saying. It actually is true. What you pay your attention to grows. Simple as that.
Right. So it's not about tearing down the statue. It's about recognizing the fact that you were a slave and you're figuring it out.
And
Thank
when
you
you're
for the lesson, got it, moving on.
When you're focusing on something too, I mean, this is not it's not easy to do. It's work. It's play. I mean, it really is. It's play and it's work. It's have you ever played a game that you like to do and you're sweating and you're tired and all that kind of stuff? It's hard work, but you're playing and you're having fun and you're glad you're doing it. Well, the same metaphor applies here. And one of the things that's important to remember is you have to choose what you want to focus on and what that is, and then keep course correcting to that choice. So this is what I know, this is what I'm sensing, this is what I believe, this is where my focus is. Something comes up and you repeat that. I mean, right now when I'm saying this, I've got my hand in front of my face, and I look to the side because something came up. I'm going to look right back at my hand. This is what I know, this is what I believe, this is what I'm sensing, this is what I'm focusing on. And you have to keep doing that. And you may have to do that in the next hour a couple hundred times, maybe a couple thousand times. But it's your choice. Do you want to go to the idea of unfettered access, to the actual reality of unfettered access, to the actual delicious, amazing, unlimited possibilities of unfettered and facilitated access, just because I can feel an awful lot of people are on the money thing. Okay, well, let's play with the money thing for a minute. We won't push it aside. We'll play with it. So do you want to go to that place? If the answer is yes, or kind of yes, or absolutely yes, or you bet yes, great. The way to get there is what we're talking about. And when you get there, you'll realize that that's just absolutely a few bits of whipped cream on the top of the hot fudge sundae that you've wanted forever.
That's right. It's really important not to forget that this is our adventure. We created this whole thing. We wrote this. We are all of this. We created all of it. This is an adventure. Don't forget that. You know, it's trying to really step in to feeling the adventure and doing what she's saying, you know, focus on what feels really good and go towards that, because that's what you're going to create. Why focus on what doesn't feel good anymore? Because that's old shit. We've done that over and over and over and over. We played it all out. We did it. Now it's time to move on. Now we get to grab for the gold, so to speak, you know? It's time to focus your gut feeling and really notice your sense of beingness in your selfness, you know, in your bodiness, in your vibrationness, and bringing in all of these other parts of yourself into the fullness of who you are, and expanding yourself in that way. And that's all about focus. It really is. It's all about the choices.
I want to interject a very linear, you know, person on the ground who's having a really hard time perspective, because like I said, I've been in that place in all sorts of shapes and sizes, and we all I know all of us that are, you know, talking on this call right now have. So I understand that I'm no, you know, I don't live in a castle. I don't have servants. I don't have, you know, millions of coins. I don't have any of those kinds of things. But I have direct experience of knowing of being under a rock. So for a moment, I wanted to play in the idea of the linear focus and realize that when you have a perception, it's coloring your perspective on things. So if you're resisting something, that's going to color your focus. It's going to color what you're seeing. If someone describes to you what a tree looks like and you've never seen a tree, never heard it called a tree, that's going to be new to you. So that's what's happening right now. When you think of the people within the court system, maybe you knew about what was going on with Heather today and Randy today in the court. Remember that, you know, one can say, well, that's the judge, and why is they still holding her, and why isn't she free now, and why does she have to have a bracelet, and all these other kinds of things. Understand that they're part of this whole process. They're part of the whole play. They're part of the whole game. And they have the rules and the regulations within the system that they're in playing that game. That's, you know, they're an actor that's playing their role. Also realize that there are people behind them that don't want this to end quite yet. They're not ready. You know, a lot of them are very ready, but some are not ready because they're afraid. And so when that judge leaves that bench, you bet he's had to have played his role and walked a very beautiful line right now between letting us all wrap up together the end of this game and still playing his role enough that he's not going to get, you know, a howitzer in his face when he walks out the back door of his chambers. And I'm not kidding. I'm being very actual and factual when I'm talking about that. So that might help you start to understand that there is no us and them and we're all together, and that there is some trepidation. There is some, well, gosh, how do we get out of this? How do we end this? In fact, I'll just speak a little bit more. The last phone call I had with Heather was last night, although it seems like, you know, years ago. And she was talking, we were talking about, you know, how court would go today and what the plan was and all those kinds of things. And she was reiterating a conversation that we'd had a while ago when she was back in D.C., that they came to her and told her that they want to end it, but they don't know how to end it. They don't know how to get the story. It's very hard. You're all having a hard time thinking, wow, what's a TDA and how is that and where does it come from? Well, they're trying to figure out how to, you know, let the cat out of the bag, how to tell all of this, because since it's not in isolation, it's related to a whole host of everything. It's related to all else. And when you start pulling one thread, you're unraveling all the threads. And if you're scared of pulling one thread, you bet you're hiding under the bed at the possibility of all those other threads unfolding. So what we were talking about on the phone yesterday evening was that they were sharing that with her. And she said, fine, no problem. We'll go through this dance of the hearings and the process, and I can do that in the way that I'm answering what you're saying, you know, our purported charges and all of that, and reveal all of that. So that.
And I can tell you, DZ.
Yep.
I can tell you firsthand, confirm what you're saying, because I've had conversations with Cabal members and directly, and one of the biggest things is how do we know that after we disclose everything, we're not going to be hanging from a tree?
Right.
Right,
and we've got to prove that to them, that we've evolved enough so that we're not going to hang them up in a tree. And honestly, lately, when you look at how we're fighting amongst ourselves, a lot of the things that get posted on Facebook, a lot of the things that get released by quote unquote anonymous, these are tests. Even some of the routing numbers these were tests to see how people would react, to see how people would deal with certain information, to see what the overall consensus is amongst humanity. And when you start pointing fingers and fighting and calling people, that does not give them confidence for full disclosure.
Absolutely.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. And I've been getting one message very, very clearly with what I'm doing, and that is, I know you guys have probably heard it several times, but we have to love this free. We have to go in and see these beings as the players, the game players that were actors who are fabulous, and they cannot let go of their role until they know that our hearts are pure, that our hearts know them as us. Then they can. That's what I keep saying. It's like you get to, when you get to a place inside of you when you know that there is no separation from you and I, and that you are I and I am you.
Right, and I will take that one step further if I may. In the game, the way it's played is all the souls script the roles. Okay, so the Cabal's roles were all scripted. Our roles were scripted as well. That's why the Neverwinds were always about, is it fate or is it destiny? You know,
exactly.
That's a whole different thing. But what I'm saying is, from the higher perspective, where you can end the game, when you realize that every soul is, that the dark role is the role played for the growth of the other soul. In other words, the people who play the dark roles are playing the dark roles to help us learn the lessons or set up the situation where we can make choices and make them correctly this time. And they'll keep setting up the game over and over and over again and giving us the opportunities until we finally get it. But once we get it, once we figure it out, then the final piece is we must go back to them and say thank you for setting it up over and over, for playing your role, because let me tell you what, they suffer in their roles. They suffer. They are abused from the time they're little. Do you know, in the Cabal, they must give their children at 2 and 3 years old to other Cabal members to sodomize and rape, to start their mind control, getting them mind control to stay within the Cabal so they don't get out. They are traumatized. They have to sell their soul, basically, and their light has to be diminished to stay in that role. So they live in hell. Yes, they have money, but they're not happy. We have happiness. We have the ability to be happy with money or without money. They don't get that choice. They want out, but they're scared of us. They're scared that we will not figure it out and release them. And so they have every reason to not want to do this. So that's why I'm on here with you. We're all on here with you guys, trying to help you get to the higher perspective where you realize this and say, if we want this to end, then we have to step up to the plate and say, release them from blame so that this game can end, because we asked them to play the role, and they've done it, and they've done it beautifully.
They're partners. Pure and simple
they're partners. Yes.
And people listening, when you're taking all of this in and you're hearing the different things people are saying and you're having different reactions and different things are coming up with you, one of the senses I'm feeling of, well, when are we going to see some outside proof? Well, if you haven't already looked, you've seen a galactic size, quantum size, all of sources, universes size of proof today, and that was the order from the court to release Heather on her own recognizance. Yes, she has to stay in the state, in a certain part of the state, and all that kind of stuff. But I can tell you, there is no judicial system. There is no innocent until proven guilty. There is no fair play. There is no rules of engagement. There is none of that. They own the board. They hold the board. It's a big business board. And if they wanted to make Heather disappear into a little hole, from their perspective, they could do it. They would not do what they have done today if they're not understanding and fully engaged in the last portions of the last scene. I'm not talking about the last few scenes. I'm talking about the very last scene of the play, of the game, the very last. And it's a little bit of a long scene. Sometimes it seems like a really long scene, but it's also happening very fast. And so that's your big proof right this moment to see that. And when questions come up about that particular thing, because those questions are going to challenge, even if they aren't questions that have anything to do with legalese and court and blah, blah, blah. They're questions that will come up that are going to challenge the way you see the world, the way you understood, the way you thought things were. So imagine for a moment if you woke up today, or you go to bed tonight and you're dreaming, and when you wake up in the morning, that you knew, and everyone around you was learning and knowing and noticing and grokking, experiencing and integrating that everything that you thought is not as it seems. That's happening right now.
Definitely.
Yeah. We're training. We're proving that we can step up to the plate and become the peacekeepers of the galaxy, which means we have to be able to integrate anything. We have to be able to achieve peace, not by destroying one side over the other, but by finding the value in each side. That is our divine destiny. That's what we're here. That's what we were created for. We are the hope of the universe right now, guys, and they're all watching us to see if we can pull this off.
That's why this call is so important, and what we're saying. You know, a lot of people, if you're, like I said, if you're just focused on the money, you're going to have a hard time seeing the logic of this. But if you expand your view, you know, I can tell you, religious people are going to have a hard time. They're going to have to rethink everything. You know, that doesn't mean that they can't do it, but it is really important for those of us who are right there. You know, like, go ahead, Jelaila.
No, that wasn't me.
Oh, it was me. Sorry, I was just saying, it's as if right now it's almost too painful to hold on to the old stuff, and the letting go thing is so like, I must do this. You know, it's like this just allowance of the blossoming. The pain to hold on to the bud is not nearly as direct as the joy of budding, and I can feel that throughout all of us.
Right. And, you know, guys, all the programs of the Matrix, the religions, you know, the warring, the mainstream media, the chemtrailing, all the social engineering, all of that, we will have to see our way through. Those are like the alligators in the temple of Kamambo. Each one is a fear. Each
Right.
one is based on a fear, and we have to see we have to just figure these out. We have to see them for what they are, have our moment of anger, and then move beyond that. We can't get stuck in anger, because that's how we ended up failing before in our ability to integrate. Or we ended up getting a lot of money, and because we hadn't integrated, we ended up going to war with it and nuking ourselves into oblivion anyway. So see, having the money doesn't resolve the problem either. If you're still holding on to the same fears, you can still be controlled and triggered by those fears. So you're going to see the Vatican right now. And we'll go down this rabbit hole in another call, all about the religions. They were all created to divide and control humanity.
Right.
And they all start in the same place.
They all start in the same place. So on Facebook, I've noticed that now they're putting out, and this is the cabal doing this thing about, they just discovered this old manuscript that proved that Jesus isn't who we thought he was. And that the Vatican wants to have access to that manuscript. Well, honey, let me tell you, it's in their archives.
It came from them, and they're probably the ones that leaked it.
Of course they are.
Yeah, exactly, because they're our partners right now, and we're all coming into frequency where we're going to, level out.
Right. So they're starting disclosure, but they're leaking it out a little bit at a time because they're afraid of us and what we will do to them. But they are starting to tell the truth.
Let me ask a plain question to everybody right now. So you've got two hands. Put your hands out, or a thought process. On the one hand, you can have the most amazing things that you've ever thought about, the biggest dreams, the biggest playing, the biggest envisioning, the most delicious, juicy, wow, knock your socks off stuff. And someone says to you, well, okay, if that's all you want, I guess you can have that, but we have all these other things that make that look like, hey, no big deal, that's pretty boring, and we got all these other really amazing things squared, and whatever the other term is in mathematics, that's, gigantic, right? And on the other hand, you've got this, I see you like that, but we've got all these people, and you know what they did? Do you know what they did? And they did this, and they did this, and they did this, and they did this, and boy, they did this to me, and they did that to you, and do you know that? Don't you want to get them? So look at your two hands. And where do you want to play? Where do you want to go? What do you want to experience? Because on the hand where all that amazing, fantastic thing is yes, the acknowledgement of everyone, the roles we played. And yes, the integration of everyone and what went on. The good, the bad, the ugly, the magnificent, the sublime, all of it. But you need to choose. Because when you get the most amazing, delicious, phantasmic, orgasmic wonderfulness, that includes all. It starts with an A, has two L's, it's underlined, it's bold, and it's flashing. And all means all. Got it?
And I want to add to that what it looks like when the frequency fence is down, what unfettered access actually looks like. That's the ability to be literally whoever you choose and to do whatever you choose, to experience whatever. It's the ability to create, shape, and experience your own reality in any setting that you want. So if you want to have lunch in a 1920s jazz cafe tomorrow, you can actually go to 1920 jazz cafe and experience that. And if you want to have, drinks on the deck 10 of the Starship, tomorrow, you can do that. You can. This is the type of reality beyond the fence. exists. And
right, because beyond the reality, beyond the fence, we're living the multiple reality, I wouldn't say world, but we are able to travel the timeline and go back and forth or up and down or however you choose it. It's no longer one life, one reality, one dimension.
One thing I want to I just want to put in right here this moment because it's lighting up big time for me to help people understand a little because, wow, there's some brains and hearts that are popping and expanding all at the same time. And that is, if you listen to someone, one of us on the call, or listen to someone, and they're telling you about what's going on, and that is a valid perspective. It's their perspective. It's based on their perception and their experience. And this could be someone who's a rule giver, someone in authority. It could be someone on a website. It doesn't matter, okay? And then someone else is sharing something, like on this call, about the expansiveness and all the worlds and all the different civilizations and all the different beings that are out there. Okay, I'm a being, you're a being, we're all beings. We come in different shapes, sizes, and everything. Each of those are similar, they have a similar thing. They're all valid perspectives. What happens when we look at this is we look at it usually in a linear perspective. So a straight line, a linear perspective, past, present, future, lots of different ways you can hold linear, but linear is a linear thing. Time does not really exist at all, but it doesn't exist in a linear thing. So when people are talking about how there's all different races and we're going to have disclosure and the galactics are coming, you are galactic. Not only are you galactic from your heritage, from your bloodlines, from all of the mixing and playing and cosmology, as we were in a literal sense of the DNA and so forth. But because there is no past, present, and future, you actually are someone who's on a starship or a light ship or however you want to hold it someplace else the same time as you are now. And that 0 point, another way to understand that, is all of those points of light, all of those points of beingness are all, you could hold it as either all falling in to the totality back again of each being, or all expanding out to encompass each portion, each fractal of each being, okay? So there's not a timeline and you get from here to there and it's Tuesday and then Wednesday and then Thursday. It's actually all of those days at once and things are happening at the same time, right this moment. When you start to notice is, why do you think that life seems to go so much faster than it ever used to? And it's not because of elections and chaos and blah, blah, blah. Everybody says it. It doesn't matter whether they're awake or sound asleep snoring. Wow, things go so much faster. Because all of that structure around the false construct is falling away. And so our perception of our moving through time is very different. I find myself most of the time spending my place where there's no time, so I can get a million things done. People say, I don't know how you're doing what you're doing, and you work full-time job and blah, blah, blah. Because most of the time I don't adhere to the rules of the time, and I can get what I choose to get done in that moment. The only time it poses a challenge is when I have to be at a certain place at a specific time in a linear sense, and that has to happen just then. Then I've got to kind of pull myself back in from all the different places and things I'm doing and get to that one point and back fully on the linear timeline. So I just wanted to add that if that might help.
Well, thank you so much. That was fabulous.
Yeah.
It was great.
There's a video game, and I don't know. I'm not a big gamer. I mean, I do play video games, but I wouldn't be classified as what you would call a gamer. But there was a video game, and it's probably still very, very popular, called Grand Theft Auto. And when I saw this game for the first time, I hated it because it's quite a violent game. it's basically a game that allows you to run around and do anything you want. You know, you can run people over, and because of that, it became really, really popular. A lot of people play Grand Theft Auto and other similar games like that. But in the game, you know, the game really didn't have that much of a purpose. I mean, there are certain scenarios you can run and different missions that you can do. But the game, because you got to play and really do anything you want, you know, things that you wouldn't normally do in life. Now, if somebody was playing that game and thousands, millions of people have played that game, do you make judgments about the person, about what they did in the game? You know, like do you call, well, he was a really bad person in the game, you know, so he's evil? No, because everybody who's playing the game knows it's not real. And this is the whole problem. You think all of this is real. You know, like, I don't care really what happens. In this reality, we experience it as though it's real. So, yes, I'm not going to say there should be no moral compass and do whatever it is that you want to do. Because when you stub your toe, it's going to hurt. You know, you're going to feel the pain. So our experience in one sense, yes, this is very real. But in another sense, and literally, this is a simulation. It's all illusory. None of it is real. Physicists are telling you that. That's another part of the leaked information. You know, this isn't real. It's all a simulation. And a lot of people who are playing this game know it's not real. And if you can move to that place and stop casting judgments on how people are playing the game and what they choose to do in the game, and just recognize it as a game, you're there. You're right where you need to be to get past the frequency fence.
So let's talk for a minute to wrap this up about what do we need to do next? Where do we need to go next? And to give these people a track to run on. Now that we understand that this is about, we've got to achieve that, we got to get to that frequency of integration where we can end this game and everything can be released, but we won't end up destroying ourselves with it. Because I would say, you know, because the dragons are there in their role, they are supposed to release it until it is safe for them to release it, because they don't want to see this world destroyed. Remember their creation myth, that they are responsible for every planet, and if it gets destroyed, it's on them, and then they get destroyed. They get eliminated. That's why they're holding on. That's another reason they're holding on for dear life. So we've got to prove to them that we aren't going to destroy the planet, and we aren't going to seek revenge, that we get it, that it was a game, we all agreed to play it, and we release them, and you know, they can heal, because they're going to need to heal from having their souls diminished for so long. They need our compassion to be able to begin that healing process. So what can we tell the people that they can do from this point on? And one thing I do want to say before you guys jump in and give your piece, because I want each of you to give your piece in closing, is, guys, now that you understand the rules of an integration game, then you understand you can't go out and convince anybody about this. Anytime you see something going on, don't get in there and jump and take sides. Just look for the value. Focus on the value. And if you say anything, just put out there the value that you see in all this that's happening, because that will diffuse it. So that's my piece.
Okay, and what came to me right away when you mentioned that, what can we do, the very first thing that came to me very clearly is be gentle on yourself. Like, you've got to be the one to be gentle on yourself, and when you can learn to be gentle on yourself with everything that you're moving through, because literally it's almost like a rocket right now. Wherever you meet places where you go, oh, I did that wrong, just change that around a little bit and say, oh, I recognize that. Cool. And then you change that into a place where you can be gentle with yourself. And when you can be gentle with yourself, you can also, from there, be gentle with others. And that brings back to you what you emit. It's an energetic, magnetic, electromagnetic frequency band that brings back to you who you are. And so when you can learn to be really gentle with inside of yourself, about everything, just remind yourself all the time, be gentle, love myself. And when you do, you'll notice everything will meet you where you are. As we go, I mean, I got a lot of stuff to still let go. I can feel it, but I can see it, and I'm excited. And, you know, instead of being like, oh, shit, I got like this other stuff to deal with, I'm like, okay, I'm excited because I know every step I take, my world opens up. Literally everything comes to me when I need it, as I need it. It's not what I might have expected, but everything within it, there are jewels everywhere. And they are amazing. It is really just like a game. It's a video game. We are the ones that created the video game, all of it, including the contrast, including the ones who play those roles. They literally are our creation. And so when we can look at it in that way and we can love the fact that it is what it is, now that we know what it is, this has been the most amazing call. But be gentle on yourself always first. That's my 2 cents.
DG?
A couple of things come to mind. I'm trying to sum them up all into one funnel. Don't feel the need to be happy, fluffy, lovey bunny 24/7, and you don't need to do that. In fact, if that's very far away from where you are right now, then please, absolutely, do not do that. Don't do it. There are things that come up. You can have one moment in the morning where you really are happy, fluffy, and you can feel that. And you're like, wow, I feel it. I know it. God, I got it. And then, 2 minutes later, it's like, and, and you're thinking of every expletive in the book, and you're directing it at a person, and you're like, yeah, there. So, great. And keep flowing from one to the next to the next. Focus on what you want. Focus, as Heather says, on the big, big, big outcome. And it's not just the TDAs. It's not just the money. It's not just getting out of jail. It's none of those things, but it's all of those things. And when you're thinking about possibilities and you're thinking about, well, gosh, if that wasn't true, and, oh, wait, look, that's not true either, okay? But it's all really beautiful. And I know many friends who have been pissed off at me for years when I would say the sublime deliciousness of the complexity of all of this going on, whether I was talking about some horrible thing or not, and I have a very big heart. It doesn't matter, because the detail and the level of full-on jumping completely, immersing completely into the game so that we could expand beyond this for all. This is not just this planet. This is all. We're back to that word. Just keep repeating the word all, and you can put it in every single scenario. So focus on that and know, or at least borrow my knowing for a moment, that you can't get to where you want to go. You can't get to that deliciousness if you're not willing to focus on that and carry through. And sometimes they may just be minuscule steps, and that's great. So just keep going. You're doing great, and it really is all good. It's perfect and perfectly done.
Very good. Bob?
Along with what Judy and BC said, which I agree with 100%, I would say that to always keep a step away. Whenever, like BZ said, if you're feeling bad or you're feeling angry or you're feeling whatever it is that you're feeling, that's fine. Go ahead and feel that. Process it, understand where it's coming from. And once you recognize that you're feeling that feeling, you've already taken a step away from the actual experience. And if you take another step back, you'll start to see things in a different way. So always try to expand your perception, to look at things not just from your own personal point of view, but try to see things from a field of view. Understand the greater reality. And it really is helpful because once you get to the greater perspective, it doesn't feel as bad anymore. You can literally transform, and this is what I do. I mean, it's not like I don't ever get pissed off. Right? It's not like I don't ever get frustrated. It's not like, we all are experiencing this. It's how we deal with those emotions. What do you do with those emotions? And we have never been this far along the game. We are in unknown territory right now. And we're at the exact closure of the grand experiment. How long is it going to take? It's going to take as long as it takes. But these calls and, this really opens that crack in the matrix so powerfully. This is the fastest way. We are on the fast track. And I'll tell you, once the frequency fence breaks, everything transforms almost instantaneously. Everything. I mean, it will happen so fast. You won't even recognize the world that you're in.
Right.
May I say one more thing, too? And that is to also remember that you are purely and completely and thoroughly unique. You don't need to be like anybody else. You need to be like you, full on, and don't look at anybody else. Don't because that's another you playing that.
Did we lose her?
We lost her.
Okay.
Judy.
Let me just jump in real quick. I want to remind everybody, Jelaila mentioned at the beginning, welcome to the trolls, and I echo that. But this call is being monitored, not only in real time, and there's a monitoring of a gauging of your frequencies, your energy, where it's spiking, where it's dipping. This is maybe a bad analogy, but I'm going to remember that because it popped in my head. You see when there's a political contest and they have the poll calling when they're watching a speech, and people I forget what it's called, but they dial the dials, and it dials up and it dials down. If you ever watched The West Wing, this was a recurring theme, so that they can gauge the public's response. So that's kind of what's happening right now. They're gauging this response. And then as this call gets put out, turned into a video, on audio, all those different things, it's put on IUV, it's spread all over the Internet, wherever people choose to share it and spread it. Again, those gauging mechanisms will be employed to express where people's reaction is, to see how the expansion is, to see what happened on this call, because I can guarantee you, and I know for a fact, that this call was anticipated and very pleasantly appreciated that it's happening for this very reason, because it's a form of helping them do what they want to do but are not certain how to do it. Just like you're not certain how to access your TDAs. Well, they don't know how to get the fuck out of this thing. Mm-mm. So we're helping them.
Yes. So I want to kind of wrap this up. A couple of things. Now that this call is complete, I had gotten a message just recently from the people upstairs, and they've been telling me about this, the bigger perspective, the universal game, for a long time. And they said not long ago, they said that they are beside themselves with joy to see how far we've gotten, because we've never gotten this far before, where we haven't destroyed ourselves, we haven't ended up in a civil war in the United States, which was one of the big ones we can't, and our presidents are still alive. We have never gotten to this point before, people. We have destroyed our world. by the time we got to this point. As the knowledge of everything that was hidden became revealed, in the past we went to war. We couldn't forgive, we sought revenge, and we went to war, and we annihilated our worlds. They are so thrilled that we're choosing the option A, that we are going to integrate. And they said, after this, there is no script. We're writing a brand new script after this is over. We just got to get through this last part. So one of the things that I'm going to do next is I'm going to do a call because I know I've gotten tons of people asking me about the formula of compassion. How do you use it? How do you activate the thymus to be able to alter DNA? And it creates a portal every time you do it. It creates an opening in the grid every time you do it. I will do it on another call and bring in people that have been doing it for years, and they'll be able to give you their experiences as well. And then after that, we'll do calls on, we'll go down the rabbit hole about the whole Jesus thing. I'm finally willing to do that. I haven't done that. I've been asked for years to do it, but I haven't done it. And then we'll do more of these calls as well with Bob and BZ and Judy and anybody who wants to jump in. The more of us who do it, the further it will get. And we'll complete this game, guys. We'll finish this up. And I tell you what, the people on the other side, they're cheering us on. They're just thrilled to death that this is happening. So thank you. Thank you for joining in, and thank you for hanging in there. And
thank you, Jelaila,
bring this baby home.
And BZ and Judy, thank you.
I love you both. Thank you all. I love everyone. Yeah, great. Fabulous call. Thank you.
Do it in love,
right,
everybody.
Well, good night.
And I love you all.
Huh?
I said do it
Love
in
you all.
love,
Thank you,
and I love
everybody.
you all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.